Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview space holders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the connection catalyst and manifestation mentor. Today on the show, we have Jake Allan, a businessman and a biohacker. Welcome to the show, Jake. How are you doing?
Hey, Caro. Look, I'm really excited to have a chat with you. And, it's interesting, but not entirely surprising that we're talking on this podcast about health. Because, I'm a business person first, who happens to meditate, likes a bit of a cheeky surf, but I am
Happens.
addicted to health and kind of human performance. So, I'm really excited to have a bit of a chat about some of that with you today.
You just happen to meditate, right? It just happened.
Yeah, well, I know. Well, it kind of this whole focus on health happened when I was much younger. And as a teenager, I used to compete as a junior elite professional triathlete, and I was just fascinated with how the body worked and pushing myself and performance. And it kind of all came crashing down when I did a race, and then I didn't wake up for 24 hours. And doctors were trying to work out what was wrong with me. I wasn't waking up. Everyone was kind of pretty nervous about what I had, or they didn't know what I had. And so I ran all these tests and kind of saw all these different medical professionals in Western medicine, Eastern medicine, and basically I developed chronic fatigue. And so I guess it's just because of this fascination and drive to learn more about health and to trial all these different things that really enabled me to, start to meditate. And I've done that for 16 years. But it's also just been a blessing in the fact that this is my life. I'm fully back. I've got energy. I'm high energy, which is awesome. But it's serving me so well. And I think this is why I continue to search for new solutions in health for boosting energy and vitality.
So it was like randomly that at some point you just kind of didn't wake up for like 24 hours, or was it kind of like gradual that you felt fatigued and you felt like, okay, like I'm actually, or was it
Yeah.
just like one day you just kind of collapsed?
Yeah, I was training 11 to 13 times a week, which is a lot. And I was doing school, like this is young Jake with pimples and braces. So, I was just, and I was probably eating a whole, pecan Danish pie, like a whole cake before a run, and trying to do all the social things. But I was just burning myself out. And I was effectively trying to do a professional training load while I was at school, which probably wasn't the most sustainable thing. And I just did this race, and then practically my whole body just shut down. And no one could work out what was wrong with me. I think I saw like cardiologist, psychologist. I saw sports physicians and the whole bit. And it actually ended up coming down to like some hormone replacement therapy, and then meditation and mindset work and some exercise to stimulate my body to get myself back. And so I think I'm no longer doing that sort of intense exercise like I was, but I'm certainly, in the gym. In fact, and I'm continuing to kind of learn about my body. We're actually at Oracle Healthcare. It's this pretty massive facility, and they've been helping me they do full body health assessments actually. So they have all these different machines from body composition with DEXA scans, and I did a VO2 max there the other day. And they have another machine, a Vectra, which basically like looks at your whole skin and mapping, and cardiologist. And I guess it's just been part of this, life now, right? Of trying to discover like how to improve myself. So it's taken me some pretty interesting places. And but who knows what's next? So
We will see. We will see. And so,
yeah,
what are the tools of all these tools that you've tried so far that were the most
yeah.
effective for you, right? For the burnout, for the fatigue, but also just for your health that you found, okay, this is it for me. Like this works, miracles like nothing else.
Well, I think meditation has certainly been a mainstay for me. And I've done different sorts of meditation, from Zen Buddhist meditation to Samarpan. And it's I think it's more about spending time with self and just fully giving into meditation. I think it probably took me a few months to get to that point. And then I just felt very deeply into it, and I think I was seeing a lot of the benefits. There's certainly a lot around. There were some studies at the time around visualizing my health getting better and improving it. I think they did that with children at the Children's Hospital in Melbourne, in Victoria, in Australia at the time. So that definitely helped. I think a lot, and visualizing what I wanted, which was affected, not what I didn't want, which was getting out of the situation, but what I wanted. And I guess that opened up. I mean, we could talk about it, went into this whole spiritual journey of personal development and self-discovery. But paired alongside that were these hormone therapies. And I think since I mean, I only was on them for a very short period of time, and since then I think my body took over with exercise. And exercise is so good for the body, right? Like it's if there was the best drug in the world, and we didn't have exercise, it would be exercise if it was bottled. So I'm a massive advocate of that. I exercise maybe 5-6 times a week. As I said, I surf, I run, I do the gym multiple times a week as well. But more recently, I think some things that have been of added benefit to both my focus and my mood, alongside meditation, has certainly been ice baths, so kind of heat therapy, so ice baths, and I say deliberate cold exposure because it doesn't necessarily need to be like an ice bath. Like you could have you could be in a shower, for instance, it's pretty cold if the water's just turned off, and saunas. So I've been using them frequently. Like, let's just say for saunas, I aim to get there 4 times a week. It doesn't always happen, but that's the goal. And with cold, immersion therapy, I'm in the shower. Well, I'm a regular at the shower, let's just say. I mean, I'd advocate, being sanitary, but as well as that, I do finish on a cold shower, every day. And I also do go to places where they do have ice baths as well, as an extra stimulation. And that's been fantastic for my health and my mood. So I'd say it's something that people should really give a go.
Yeah, I agree with that. Although I'm a very hot loving person, like 30 degrees Celsius is like the best for me. But still, even when I'm in Spain now in the winter, I go to the water, even if it's only 30 seconds. It already kind of like boosts my mood and my self-esteem as well. It's like, I've done it. Like I went into this freaking cold water and now I feel so good about myself because it was so hard to even stand there for like 30 seconds. But because, for me, it's extreme. Like I really hate it. Like in the past, I thought I'm never going to do it, like ever. Like I'm not getting there. But then we watched some kind of, actually, my friends, and like Ricky included, our common friend, they watched some kind of Wim Hof documentary. And then they were like, let's go into this cold lake. I'm like, are you freaking crazy, guys? Are you nuts? Like I'm never gonna do it. But then of course I went, and like I think 30 seconds or whatever was like the max that I could do. But still, even if you go for such a short time, the boost of energy and the boost of just confidence that like, okay, I've done it. This is so hard. And I kind of I could stand there for, even like a short period of time. I feel like it doesn't have to be, 5 minutes straight away, or like not at all, because for me, it's super enough to go there for 30 seconds to just have this kind of like empowerment that I can do it. And I would do it just a few times for 30 seconds, but still it would give me every time the boost of dopamine, the boost of like, confidence and self-esteem. Like, yes, I'm freaking awesome. I've done it, although I hate it. Just like kind of going out of my comfort zone, right? Like that's the whole point, to just go out of what you know and then into something more expansive for yourself. So yeah, I can relate to that at all, like for sure. But I would like to ask, what do you see that is like the difference between the cold exposure and heat exposure in terms of like how you feel? Because these, I guess, states bring different qualities. So how did you feel? And sometimes, you mix one with the other. Even in my hometown in Szczecin, you have a sauna next to the lake, and you just go sauna lake, sauna lake. And in Finland, it's very common to do it too. I've done it in Finland, to go to the frozen lake and then to the sauna. It's like a cultural thing. And so how do you see if you only do sauna, or if you only do like ice bath, or then if you combine it together? Did you see some kind of differences in benefits, or differences in how you feel, states of mind?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. And you spoke really well about what happens to the body when you do have, say, cold exposure and heat exposure. Because when we do have, in both cases, but saying cold, it does trigger these chemical reaction in the body called the catecholamines. So that's dopamine, adrenaline, and noradrenaline. So you feel more awake, you feel more focused, you have all those feel good and motivation chemicals. And I think for cold exposure, deliberate cold exposure, what you're really seeing is there's some short-term benefits. I think I usually use cold exposure in the morning because it does make you feel so awake. And I found 5 main benefits. The first one being like from weight loss or for long-term metabolic increase, so increasing the amount of energy that your body's using, right? And to burn calories and because it's trying to heat itself up. If you've been in the cold and you afterwards, it's trying to heat itself up. And that's why, like in my experience, you try and not just put yourself hop out into a warm shower after the cold water, but you kind of allow your body to heat up naturally. But over time, what happens, which is really quite remarkable, is your white fat cells, from what I've been researching from people like Dr. Andrew Huberman and Rhonda Patrick, it triggers the release of or the increase in size and number of mitochondria, which are the energy powerhouse cells in our body, and it turns white fat into brown fat just because you have more mitochondria, and that's the mitochondria actually give you that different coloration. And so over time, you're turning that fat into what's known as thermogenic fat, which means that you're able to effectively burn more fat, over time when you're not doing any exercise, etc. Which is a massive increase. We also, like, focus is a big one, just because, if I'm going into a big day and I really want to increase my focus and attention, I'll definitely do an ice bath in the morning. Because it's like it's shown that it increases 2.5 times to 5 times, like adrenaline and noradrenaline. So it definitely helps under stress. And then mood, like, use it there. Resilience, as you mentioned. So there's a whole, and like reducing inflammation, there's so many good things. So I usually use that in the morning. And then there's different things you can do, like different protocols that will have certain benefits associated with them, and we can talk about that, or kind of and how to kind of get those benefits. But that's how I typically use it. With the sauna, I'll use it after the gym, and the reason why that happens is that there's been some studies that have shown that you can increase your growth hormone by 16 times after doing a sauna for about 20 minutes or so, with a temperature of about 80 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. Now, 100 degrees Celsius is really hot, right? Like it's very, very hot. And if you can feel your body wanting to jump out of the sauna, which effectively is your body trying to tell you it's your, like, the amygdala, or it's like in those limbic system in your body that's trying to get that response of, I want to get out of here. But what it's actually doing is it's stimulating all these hormones and other parts of your body to work. So that's definitely a benefit. And it helps me with sleep as well. I don't know if you've had that after, you just feel so relaxed after a sauna. And I guess it's a dopamine hit, but it's, from what I understand, it makes people feel so good. So I love both of them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. After the sauna, or even after like the hot bath or jacuzzi. Now I live in a place where we have jacuzzi in the garden. It's just like, oh my God, the sleep is so good, because I feel like it also opens your energy field in a way, like to come from more of a place of a woo-woo energy, spirituality, and so on. Like I feel like cold is kind of like closing in a way your energy. It's kind of like, I don't know, it feels like it's sealing
It's
in a way
restrictive,
your
right?
energy.
Like
Whereas the hot, it's kind of like opening up the pores, opening up your energy. So if you kind of want to release, it's good to like, put yourself in a hot, and then you can kind of like put it out. Like that's how I'm feeling it energetically when I do this. And cold is like it's like kind of contracting in a way, but it's also like sealing.
yeah,
Like I'm in myself, like I'm kind of taking the energy in, and kind of maybe also accumulating it in a way, right? Rather than like
yeah.
giving in a way and kind of like dispersing it all around me. So that's what I found as well. But I would love you to talk about the protocols, specifically the ones that you found that are just the most effective or the most fun to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we'll start off with the sauna because it's just, I mean, I think what's been really interesting is you have these parts where, and I'll almost call them, I think Huberman talks about this as well, but like walls where you have your body that's really trying to get out of the sauna. I don't know, have you experienced that before? And I think it's like where you're basically, what I understand is it's your limbic system, um, which is trying to basically control your behavior and trying to get you out, and then also your hypothalamus. But it's very hard to get out. So every time I want to get out of the sauna, or I want to get out of the ice bath, I kind of call it a wall, and I want to hop over like that wall so that so I've kind of accomplished it. And I think seeing the number of walls that I can get over in a session is like a motivation for me. And I'll typically set in a sauna, I'll typically set 20 minutes to stay in the sauna, because that's proven to be the marker of a lot of benefits. But in the ice bath, I'll last a number of walls, which might be 7 or 10. Obviously, when I started, I only I got out in about 30 seconds, or I think the maximum was a minute. But now I think the latest time I stayed in there for 11 minutes. It was at 8 degrees, and certainly when it was, when you reduce the temperature, I can't stay as long. So at 2 degrees or at 1 degree, I can probably stay for 4 minutes max at the moment. But it's kind of your body adapting to it all. So I don't know. Walls is a really great way, I think. I think people usually use time as a measure for how long they should be in an ice bath, or they should be in a hot, like a sauna, for instance, in a heated environment. But I think it makes it more of a personal goal and a personal achievement if you can use your body as the guide to how long you should really be in there. But there's also some other things that are just kind of funny that a couple of our friends and I do, which is we have this club. It's called the Book Melters, and so we've got. I mean, this is the next book I'm melting in the sauna. It's called Anti-Fragile. So hopefully that's what I want to become. But it's just an economics. It's a business book. But effectively, if we can engage in conversation and or we can read something and we're kind of distracting our mind. Often I felt like I'll stay there a lot longer, which is really great. So I think having a community that you're doing this with is really, really helpful.
That's beautiful. And I love the book melters. It's so funny, the name book melters. It's like, are you actually melting? Like, are these books actually melting when you do it?
Yeah. I've got some photos, which are pretty nuts. We've got one friend, and it gets so hot. I think he's burnt some hairs on his head, and and so he wears, like, I've actually got one of them here. He wears a bit of a tea towel, and he'll be like, I mean, I'm kind of not doing it very well, but he'll wear this tea towel on his head like a pharaoh or something, and basically that's to prevent, because it's so hot in there. Like, he'll get it up to. We went in this sauna in where I live in Manly, and I think the temperature was over 80 degrees Celsius, which is very hot, right? It's like over the temperature you need to, start to increase mitochondrial production and get all those benefits. And he thought that was cold. so I don't know. I don't know what temperature he's got. I don't think he has a thermometer on there at all. But he's certainly melting books. He's certainly sweating up a storm in there. So
I think it's so funny that it's actually possible to melt a book. I just think it's so hilarious that you
yeah.
actually melt them.
Yeah, I think that's the that's the marker of whether or not you're a true sauna goer is how many books you've melted. So
So funny. That's so funny. But yeah, it's good that you say that like everyone's body is like the best measurement of how long they should be in the cold or heat exposure. Because I feel like everyone is different. And even if you have any protocols and stuff, it's kind of like with fasting. You cannot really say, okay, you should fast or you shouldn't fast for this or that long. Because also when it comes to mindset and beliefs, if you have a belief that after some time you're gonna get really shit, feeling really shit, like after a few days of fasting or after not drinking of some water for 3 days or whatever, then also if I'm in the cold for more than 3 minutes, I'm going to feel shit. If you have a mindset like that, then of course it's going to happen. So then it's about the person, about their body, and about the mindset as well, like how they can believe that they are going to feel good at this specific time. Because like recently, two of my friends, for example, did like a 20 minutes cold exposure in the lake in my
wow.
hometown, which normally they do like 5 to 6 minutes. And I was like, how the hell are you gonna guys do like 20 minutes out of nowhere, right? Like just that. But they had some kind of coaches and some kind of people, and they were doing it all together in a group, and they did it, and it was, all good. Like they did it, but of course they had a guide, and they had some kind of group of people taking care of them and seeing if they don't get hypothermia or whatever it's called that you get in there. But you can jump from 6 minutes to 20 if you really have a mindset set up, and if you have enough, I think, care for people to just really not overdo it, not abuse their bodies. But I feel like it's a lot about like what you believe. It's the same with a lot of things, right? It's the same with all areas of our life. If you believe that you're going to be fine sitting there for 3 minutes, you're probably going to be fine. If you believe that after a minute you're going to get hypothermia, you're probably going to get it, right? So it's all about like how you set it up. And that's why looking at people like Wim Hof, for example, I mean, he's extreme. Let's not be like Wim Hof, right? Let's not think for
Yeah,
like
he's a character.
60 minutes at the 60th birthday for, in the ice bath. But if we
Yeah.
see these people, we're like, okay, this is actually possible. It's like we can maybe do the same. And then we can kind of like expand. I mean, I'm not expecting myself to be there for 5 minutes anytime soon, but I know it's possible. So I know I wouldn't get anything bad happening to my body if I did that, because my belief is that, okay, if my friends are fine after 20 minutes, then I'll be fine after 5 minutes easy, right? So I think it's a lot about like the mindset. Like, do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that as well as it being a mindset thing, it's it's also, I mean, it's a lesson in being able to listen intently to what your body is saying and how your body is reacting to it, whether or not it's your mind trying to and your nervous system, your sympathetic nervous system trying to control your behavior. And I think that's part of the benefit of these protocols, particularly, well, yes, heat exposure, and I agree that you can get this benefit here, this mental toughness, but certainly in ice, in cold water, because you're effectively controlling a part of your body that's reacting automatically, and I think it's a great thing to be able to do that. And I think what I'm really interested in is being able to apply these things in real life, having the benefit. Yes, doing it in a sauna or an ice bath or in a shower, but seriously being able to apply it in a way so that you're calmer, so that you're more focused under pressure, and I think seeing it as an isolated thing is actually is not that helpful, because if I was just doing this, I mean, there's lots of health benefits on longevity, etc., for these for doing ice and cold. But if it was just for that, and it wasn't for being able to perform better in my career or my business, then I probably wouldn't do it as much. I wouldn't be as interested. And I think it's really awesome to have that wider perspective as well. The other thing I'd say, which I thought was quite interesting, is that I was reflecting on it the other day, that when people go to the gym, and you'll have some people, they do ego lifts, like they'll try and lift, like, I don't know, 500 kilos or something like that, something
Ego
ridiculous.
lifts.
And ego lifts, and
So funny.
they almost break themselves, right? Like you see these people, there's lots of clips on YouTube and Instagram and Facebook, and they just pop up in my feed, probably because I'm a gym goer, and they have these horrid accidents. And often that's because they're trying to lift too much, or they're trying to do this too much. And I think it's really up to the individual as to what they want to achieve. And I guess what I mean by that is there's little things that people can do, and I'll give you an example in a moment. But there's little things that people can do in the gym, just like there are in ice baths and heat exposure, to make those experiences much more intense. And so, and I guess then it becomes not about how much you can lift compared to someone else, or how long you can stay in an ice bath, but more about how much you can push yourself and push your body and kind of live with that and improve. For instance, one of the things I was playing around with, and it comes up with Huberman and so much with Rhonda Patrick and a few other people, is that when we're in the ice bath, I was in there for say 10 minutes, but if I was to move in the ice bath, then I can't stay as long. Like it'll be very hard because our bodies have like a thermal layer that surrounds our body to protect us when we're in the water. And if we stay still, we're effectively protecting that. We're protected by that layer, which is kind of interesting. But if we move our hands and our feet, then we feel the cold so much more intensely. It's just like if we were to change our focus, like our internal focus, if we were to breathe calmly and do double inhales through our nose and extended out breaths, or any other type of box breathing, then we're tricking our brain in thinking that we're in a calm situation. But if we want to feel the cold more and peak our sympathetic system and our adrenaline and noradrenaline, like those kind of fight or flight responses, then we can put a more of a focus on really feeling the water and feeling the body in the cold. And that has a completely different effect. And so you could have two people in the ice bath, one moving and one having this focus on feeling the cold, and another person who's not moving at all and they're just like rigid and they've got this focus on being really calm. If all being equal, the person who's just being calm will stay longer, but that doesn't mean that person is getting more benefits. In fact, they probably could get less benefit out of it. So I think there's a lot of room to play into kind of around with these different ways of experiencing these different protocols.
Yeah, I can relate to that, because if I try to swim in the cold water, then I feel like it's way worse than if I'm like just still there and just like breathing, because I feel like it also depends on your intention, right? If you just want to get zen, and if you just want to like silence your mind and just, you just want to be there and just be present, then I think just staying in one spot is good. But if you want the kick, then maybe moving your body, it will be better. But I actually also feel like the exposure to the cold or the heat, for the sake, is kind of like getting into our instinct, getting into our subconscious mind, getting to the layers of us that were sometimes unconscious as well. And so if I was to do it more often, because I just do it from time to time because I really hate it, but I do it from time to time to just stretch my limits, right? But if I was to do it, I probably would also do it to release emotions, because if you can go into, let's say, the ice bath, and then you feel all this cold and you feel emotional about it, and you are in your, let's say, the subconscious mind layer, right? Because then you kind of, your body is in the instinct trying to survive. So if you're in the survival, sometimes it's actually easier for people to access the subconscious emotions that they have, that they haven't expressed. Or if you take a cold shower, maybe it's going to be easier for you to scream everything out, or things that are stuck in your body, the emotions that were unexpressed. And that I'm all about expressing emotions and stuff, right? We've had sessions together, so I'm all about it. So I just want to relate it to that specific thing, that you can actually use this to access your subconscious mind, and then it might be easier for you to transform, to release some of the feelings that you maybe otherwise wouldn't have access to, because you're not operating from the subconscious mind, from the instinct. You're operating from the intellect, and maybe from superconscious mind as well, from your intuition. But I guess it could be easier for some people if they are not very much into like, okay, let's do inner child work and like go deep, or they're not very much into these kind of shadow work stuff. They also can just use cold exposure for accessing the traumas that they have stored in their body. And have you tried to do it this way? Like, do you agree with that?
That's a really interesting thought, and I haven't done it so much like that. Certainly, there's some emotions that come up. I think where I usually go is thinking about, if I want to go into a state of not thinking, or just give in myself to, say, the universe, then I'll go into meditation. And usually I can get into a place of complete bliss, and I'll just melt into, like, it's almost, you feel like you're going into this vortex of, and just falling into this vortex, which is kind of surreal in an ice bath. And then when you wake up, you really wake up because you're in it. And I've done that, but I haven't, and I've certainly had experiences where it'll peak an emotion that I'm feeling. And often I'll get thoughts because you're agitated in the ice bath, particularly when, as I was saying before, you're going over these walls. But I haven't done a session after it. I think that would be really interesting to do. I think I'm going to take that on.
Yeah, I think it could be interesting also even during the experience, because for some people it's a way to transform. And I've heard people do that, on one of the other podcasts about cold therapy, we were talking about it. And also one of my besties, this is how he handles emotions, because he says it's so much easier to access, for example, my anger, my frustration, some of my feelings when I'm in the cold, because like not only I'm feeling like shit, but also I'm feeling this cold right now. And it's kind of like as you say, you're more agitated, right? So it's easier for you to just get pissed.
Yeah, and I think sometimes those emotions are hidden, right? Like they're very difficult to access. So I think putting ourselves in those more extreme situations, and it is a base emotion, fight or flight, so yeah, the more that we can kind of get used and comfortable with that, I think that's definitely a good thing. So I've tried most of the things I've done in the excluding meditation. It's mostly been a physical thing. Like if I've been in the sauna, I've done stretching with it, or I might do some light squats in the sauna, or I might combine it with coffee or fasting, because that's going to elevate like a dopamine hit. So it's mostly been from a physical perspective. But yeah, I think there's definitely something to do with that spiritual element, or that, self-development perspective that is really quite interesting. I did learn as well recently that, because when you're in an ice bath, your cognitive function, like our ability to process information, decreases by about 20 to 30%. So I've played around with like mental maths and different games in the ice bath, but I guess thinking about those other aspects, and going into self would be something definitely new.
Yeah, you should try it out. You should see how it goes and
Yeah.
then share with us.
Yeah. Have you
Cool.
had any have you had any funny or weird experiences in the ice bath? I had one the other day, where, I don't know, like, I found that you've got to find a place where, not that you feel comfortable, because completely, but because you're never going to feel comfortable in an ice bath or a sauna, but a place that you're going to feel comfortable. I had someone showing me around this facility, and when I went in the ice bath, they were hovering over me, and I think I look so, I don't know, I didn't look good. Let's just put it that way, because I was so cold. I think it was like 1 or 2 degrees, and I was a bit like this. And I think she was trying to take photos for her Instagram, and so she was up in my face taking these photos. It was really off-putting. So I think, definitely, I don't know, there's different places. I think you definitely want to find a place you feel comfortable with. Well, that's been my experience, but I don't know. Have you had any of those experiences? Have you been lucky?
I mean, I don't think I've had anyone like trying to take pictures of me when I'm in the cold, and I'm making all these weird faces. I mean, I haven't really done it like super much. I mean, last year I was in winter. I was on Madeira, and then I went to Spain and Greece. So of course I was exposed to the cold, because like no cold is gonna stop me from getting into the water, like even for a little bit. But I haven't done it like super a lot of times, just like here and there with my friends, especially with my friends, because then it's easier like to do it in the group, like, yeah, let's go to the sea, and like let's be
Yeah.
hardcore. But yeah, I didn't have like funny experiences, but I would love to actually talk more a little bit about the other health stuff that you have found that were really good for you. Like, for example, how did you find fasting?
Yeah, fasting was interesting. I think, what I've been learning is that we already have adrenaline in our bodies when we're fasting. And so kind of that cold exposure just increases our metabolism on top of the fasting. So I think there was a study, a paper called like adipose tissue plasticity in health and disease that I took a look at. But basically that's kind of one element. So I was kind of combining that fasting with coffee, like having coffee about 60 to 120, like maybe an hour to 2 hours before cold exposure. So I guess the theory is that, from what I understand, is that dopamine kind of needs some sort of receptor, like it needs to bind to receptors, and caffeine kind of gives it that. So having a cup of coffee just gives you this like super boost charge of energy, which is really cool. So like if I'm really wanting to boost mood, I'll do kind of for time or for wall, like do those sort of wall things. I'll vary the temperature. I'll have coffee and then I'll fast. So it's kind of like a whole lot of different things all together. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, most of it's just been this continual learning process of seeing how my body reacts to things, seeing how long I need to be in there, I guess it turns out that you want to be in the ice bath for about 11 minutes over a week. That's kind of the optimum, I think, from what I've learned. 11 minutes. It sounds like a long time actually, but it can be over one session or kind of multiple sessions. But yeah, I don't know. Have you done that much ice bath therapy or kind of cold immersion therapy in a week? It's quite a lot.
Absolutely not. I'm really not a cold therapy person, you know what I mean? I'm a hot therapy person. I can take super hot baths. I can be in the sauna. I can be in hot countries when people are melting and I'm in 40 degrees, like walking through the streets, and I'm like super fine. So I think for me, it would be too intense, for now at least, to do 11 minutes. But maybe at some point I will do it. It's just that for now, like I'm okay with my 30 seconds, increments. with the in the sea, but yeah, I'm also really proud of people who actually can do it for like 11 minutes over a week, because I mean it's a lot, and I have a lot of friends who do it because a lot of my friends are into health, so it's just one of the ways of how you can boost your mood and be more present and be more in like a meditative state sometimes for people. But for me, I feel like everyone has the tools and the plant medicines and all these things that are resonating or not resonating with them at this specific time as well. Because, I've been fasting like for a really long time, for example, before, and now I do a few days fast because I feel like, first of all, I don't really have space for it, but second of all, because I don't actually need it as much right now. So I feel it varies for people, and maybe one day I'm going to go into the water for more than 30 seconds, but I don't know if it's going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah, I think that's something really great that you've mentioned, is that, and something that I felt is never want to be too fixed. Like it's great to have discipline. I found to go, like if I because particularly at the start, I mean, now I feel great and I look forward to an ice bath. In fact, I'm going to one tomorrow morning because it's just, you feel amazing afterwards. But I think, and in the early days, if I didn't have that discipline and book it in and schedule it, or, whether that's the gym or any form of exercise that I do, I probably wouldn't have gone. But if I'm too rigid with it and I'm not feeling well, or maybe this week I've just had too much on and I'm not feeling it, or I feel like it's going to be not the best thing for my body, again, like feeling into myself and my energy levels is definitely beneficial. I used to do like monitor my heart rate. In fact, I do now, but I do it less. Particularly when I was training for triathlon, I would monitor my average heart rate over, say, a week, because monitoring it every day is kind of a little bit, it's going to be variable to a certain degree. But if it's 5 to 10 beats a minute over like my normal kind of heart rate, then that's an indicator that I'm getting a bit sick, or I'm a bit run down and my body needs to repair a bit more. So, I mean, I'm not a doctor. Like I'm just someone who's playing around, with all this stuff myself, and I've done a lot of training. So I found what works for me. But I think everyone needs to know themselves what works best for them. And sometimes, you know, ice bath and all this kind of stuff, like it's a hit thing, right? Like everyone is on Instagram, and you've got Wim Hof, and you've got all these different people talking about like rah, like it's the best thing in the world, and it's good. Exercise, I think, is by far the best. So I definitely recommend that. I'd always do that in my life anyway. But maybe it's not for everyone. And I don't think it is. I think as you're saying, it's right for that person when it's right for them and they feel like they're connecting with it.
Yeah, and it's like that with all the tools, really, because something that will work for this one person in this specific state of mind and age and so on might not work for another person. That's why we need to listen to our bodies and our intuition the most. And that's what is, our body will tell us when it's too much, when it's too little, when we need to move more. I mean, of course, if we're a little lazy person, then, to get ourselves to do anything would be probably a big issue. And I think everyone should exercise in some way, like even if it's like a walk, or even if it's just, I feel like everyone has at least one thing that they like doing.
Walk to the fridge,
body, right? So like it doesn't have to be hardcore exercise, but I think I can be bold to say everyone should freaking exercise, like somehow, right? Because it's the best medicine for everyone. Like that's period. That's it.
That's it. And sometimes it takes like a teacher or someone who is captivating enough to get you there. I used to not like yoga. In fact, I went.
Me too.
For like years. I went for on and off, and I couldn't get in it. I'm inflexible, by the way. I've always had like stiff muscles, and I just hated seeing like all these, because I'm competitive by nature, I guess, and I've tried to pare that side back, particularly in say yoga classes, because I'm definitely the most inflexible person there. So it's definitely an inner pursuit for me, yoga. But it's taken until this one place that I go to now, and this teacher is just incredible. And I come out with this person is much more philosophical and spiritual, and he has the right intent, and his exercises build towards something that's really quite exciting. So I think sometimes it just takes the right teacher.
Absolutely, I can resonate with that as well, because I hated yoga. Like I absolutely hated it. I never wanted to do it. But then we were living in one big house with my best friend, who just happened to do a yoga instructor course just before that. And then she was running yoga in our living room. I'm like, okay, if it's in my living room, then I'm gonna join it. Like, all right, I hate it, but it's already there, like in my face, like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then we started doing it like 2 times or 3 times a week. And then once I got into the rhythm and I found my body being more and more flexible, and I found, okay, I can actually rest in downward facing dog. At that point, I was like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. And now I can't imagine my life without yoga. Even if it's only 10-15 minutes in the morning, I really intend to do it daily. There are rare days that I don't do it at all. But even if it's only a little bit, sometimes it's an hour class, but even if it's only 15 minutes, I wake up and I feel like I need to stretch. Like now that I got used to it, it feels almost weird not to do it. And before I absolutely hated it. So I can relate to it a lot, what you were saying,
Yeah. And what I find is also like I used to be, and I reflect upon myself because I was so into, and I still am into meditation, and it's such a core part of kind of who I am and what I do on a regular basis. But I used to be closed off to the fact that I couldn't reach a similar type of, or find a similar type of flow or feeling that I get in meditation in other sort of exercises. And I think maybe it's maturity or whatever that happens to be, or just that I'm more open to it now and open to different ways of experiencing life. But I think I get a similar sense of that in surfing, or I get a similar sense of that in running sometimes. The rhythmic pattern of it, you can kind of drift away and allow your body to do the work and still, clear that mind. I think, and the same with yoga. So I think it's, having a mindset that you can be present and very in your body, but then also like clear of mind, and in almost any situation, even in something that's quite stressful. So I think that's something that I'm certainly working on. But I'm enjoying discovering new ways of experiencing that in different situations.
Yes,
Yeah, I don't know. Have you
absolutely.
found that
And so
yourself,
I have
Karolina?
one last little question to you. Where could people find you if they want to know more about what you're up to and what kind of health protocols you're trying and all these things? Like, what's the best way to see your content?
I reckon it's probably on Instagram. I mean, I was toying with a concept called Jake Goes Wild, which is just effectively me out adventuring and having a good time and a laugh. But I think at the moment that everyone can just find me on Instagram handle, which is just at Jake JAKE underscore Allan ALLAN. So I'm sure we might put it in the description somewhere, but I'll be posting some of the things I'm trying out. Last week I tried out some dumb sleepy things. They were called like New Calm. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're supposed to basically hypnotize you in a way. You listen to some music and basically it's supposed to interrupt your pattern of thinking and put you in a hypnotic state. I didn't find them that useful, but for other people, it's as good as meditation. So there's always new things that are out there, some better than others, and some probably working better for other people than myself. So always interested to give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we need to try it out and then see, right? And you're doing the work for other people as well. Like you can be, the critic, right? Like, okay, this worked, this didn't work. Of course, that it could work for different people sometimes, and for some of them not. But I've also tried a lot of things, and I found that some of the things, like for example, mindset shift things, are just not working as well as the others. So, and we both know that as we were speaking about it before we started recording this podcast. But I'm still looking forward to the Jake Goes Wild YouTube channel. So I'm certainly going to subscribe. So maybe, people will listen
Oh, that's
when it's
hilarious.
already alive and it's already there on YouTube. So guys, look out for Jake Goes Wild, because I know it's going to be wild as hell.
Fun. Well, I'll be certainly melting a few more books, and until next time we speak. So I know maybe you can try it out yourself. Become a book melter, Karolina.
Or maybe it's gonna be my new life goal to become a book melter. For sure. I've
What
never
what book
melted
would you
any book,
melt?
so there's always something new to try. So maybe I'm gonna try that next time. We will see how it goes. Oh my God. Thank you, Jake, so much for being on this podcast. Thank you for all your wisdom and knowledge and everything that you've shared. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And really, I'm so grateful that we had a chance to chat.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you so much, beautiful people, for being with us, listening to us, watching us. It's really a pleasure to do this podcast for you. And I just wanted to mention, if you're interested in a mindset shift session, changing your beliefs, or an emotional release session where we work with your childhood experiences, or if you want to learn how to manifest things into your life easier than until today, contact me at theconnectioncatalyst@gmail.com, because just recently I have created my own master manifestation method where I teach you how to change your beliefs by yourself, how to put your brain in a super learning so that it happens really fast, how to work with your childhood experiences and transform these emotions easily and effortlessly, and also how to align with your super conscious mind so that you can really feel aligned with all of these levels of yours to manifest things way quicker and way smoother in your life. So contact me on my email if you're interested, theconnectioncatalyst@gmail.com. And I'm sending you massive gratitude for listening again. Thank you.